Everybody, this is Alessandro. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to discuss something about rigging, character rigging in general, and something that I feel like every rig should have to make the life easier and make the animator performs a lot better, guys. And the reason why I'm doing this video because I see a lot of times still in production, even in big production, where rigs are not really done for the animator. They don't take in consideration what the animator needs, stuff like that. They give very few basic controller like leg, IK, switch, stuff like that. And I feel like, you know what, that's a biped. As long as you have three controllers to bend the spine and bend the leg or whatever, it's enough, you know, then now you animator now do your job, right? Which is not the case. There is a tons of feature that, every rig I think should have, including when it comes to game, guys, because, you know, I understand if 20 years ago, a rig from movie and games were a lot more complicated the one for movies because games have a lot of restriction. But today in games, 95% of the time, most rig are should able to have those kind of feature, and there is no excuse basically. And because I still see a lot of issue like this in production, well, you know, rigger they don't have a very good rig, right? Even some of my students are actually professional, senior or leads, who's been doing this for a while, and sometimes they ask me, Alessandro, why in our production, AAA studio or whatever, we don't have those kind of features that would be really nice. And I always tell them, well, you need to speak with your rigger and ask them to give it to you because, you know, at the end, the rigger needs to serve the animator. It's not an exercise that they're doing by themselves. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna start with the very basic. All right, I'm gonna start with the fit. All right, so in these cases, for the feet, we have two ways to move the feet, right? Okay, we have this one here, the classic channel here, pal roll here, or whatever, right? In my opinion, I don't really like this because are very limited to one axis only, and if you want to bend things in multiple axes, you need to find them in the channel. It's a waste of time, right? Here, if I can just like this controller and just move it like this and left to right very quickly, as you can see, I can do a lot of nice details a lot faster rather than going to a channel box, right? We have this controller over here as we expressed before, right? We have this one, all right? This one might be being used only in a few cases, but it's a nice to have, definitely, all right? And again, you have a lot more flexibility if you have this one rather than going to the channel box, right? But these I can understand could be personal preference, but at least the good things that this rig is doing is giving you the option. Okay, you want to use this one, you have it. You want to have the channel box, great, you have those as well. That's fantastic. Another thing is really good how the squash and stretch here it's set up, right? I can see again this might seems a simple things, but sometimes it's your rigger where you bend it like this, and then you go down here. Well, the legs remain bent. You need to go to another channel. No, this is how it's done properly. It's really flexible and powerful. Another things that people ask a lot and every rig should really have is this controller here, who basically allow you to do this one. All right, and this is working basically even though if you have IK or FK, right? No matter how you're bending your character, with this one you can go ahead and adjust on top of it. And this guy, don't misunderstand, this is not done for posing, but this is mostly this control is mostly done for tweaking the poppy knees, right? Which is really important, but especially in the legs. People, if you don't have this controller, they're gonna waste a lot of time to fix the poppy knee. With this one, you can do it very easily. Another things, the bendy controller, those are classic one. But again, you see like a few of them that can really let you achieve a lot. And I think there is a few other controller here in the middle that give you a little bit of extra freedom here as well. Okay, you can do them individually. All right, so these are really important, especially if you're doing something more cartoon. Maybe for realistic you don't need those controller, but even for realistic project you need this one because it's gonna help you to do the popping and stuff like that. All right, really great. When it comes to the spine, again, another things is like you have the classic FK spine controller here, right? That is driving the IK, all right? And then again, you have the IK here. You can have a great squash and stretch. You can move it around. You have the IK middle controller here, and you have this one, all right? Fantastic. You have a mix of both, and even for the hip, you have the IK hip, and you have also this one overall here, right, for the FK. I think you can still translate it a little bit, but mostly if you want to translate, we use the IK. But again, this system is really good. You will be surprised how in production these things get missed, and they give you a simple spine, not a really good squash and stretch and stuff like that. You need to have something like this to have flexibility and to make a really good spine controller. Okay, let's go to the shoulder. Okay, very simple. Right here, you have the classic shoulder controller. Good stuff here is that you have rotation and translation as well. This is good because sometimes, you know, when you do certain stuff here, you wanted to pull out or push in a little bit the clavicle, so it's okay to have those stuff, right? Sometimes when you do things like this, right, when you do this one, it's important to have something like this and have great deformation, because again, a lot of rigger can still out there, they fail to do great deformation on the shoulder, and it is a big problem, right? Because, you know, it's something that animators need to do really good poses, right? Sometimes when the poses are more extreme, so this is really important, right? And again, I see many times how people miss in the clavicle shoulder area. And another thing is when you rotate this one like this 90-degree, you can see always a lot of bad deformation because the twist joint are not be done properly. So you always want to check that your rig that you're using allows you to do this kind of pose like this. All right, very very important. And again, as we talk about it for the poppy knee, same things for the elbow. You want to have this kind of stuff overall here to let you know, in case of sometimes when you're working IKD, some poppy knee, this one can really help you to solve the problem. Or if you want to lock the elbow in a certain position, you can do that. Really great stuff. All right. For the finger, again, same for the channel box, for the foot roll, blah blah blah. You can go with the finger here, right? If you want to do them here, right? You can do this kind of stuff here, or else you can use those controller, right? It gives you the option. Me personally, because I have a lot more control, I prefer always the controller on the finger rather than using a generic, a generic like this, because, you know, everything is gonna move together. It's very difficult to control, right? This is only when you want to do really cheap animation, or maybe a very quick and dirty block out, right? But normally in animation, I prefer to use those controller, and then this one overall here, right? This one, it really lets you modify all these controllers just at once. Okay, very very powerful and flexible. You can do a lot with just a few movements. And again, guys, talk about the bendy here. It's the same like the leg. Okay, really great setup. All right. So I think for the body, if I remember correctly, mostly is it. Okay, one more thing. So when you're moving your clavicle, but this is for the leg as well. It's good that you have the orientation. Most of the time, most of the rigger, they give you like this, in the way that the arm fully follow the chest, right? But as you can see, but it's good to have a word orientation. So as you can see from the other arms, stay stuck in the in word space, right? And it's important for this one, for the head, for the upper feet, okay, stuff like that. It's important to have this kind of flexibility. All right, guys. And another things that you should not forget, that you should always check when you do when you're buying a rig or using a rig, is the orientation order, guys, because I can guarantee you many times, even in production, they give a rig to the animator, right? And then what is happening here is that in this case, you see it's good because the gimbal lock only happening on the side here, which is I would say the most uncommon rotation that you're gonna do, except if you're doing a very particular action shot with your character is flipping. But many times, guys, I can tell you they have a wrong setup, which is basically they give you this to the animator. The animator doesn't check, and as soon as you started to rotate your character like this, okay, maybe you need to change rotation when you're walking or something, right? It's gonna do this one, right? And now he wants to have the character walking in this direction or whatever. And look what's happening now. This one, if he needs to do a bit of compression like this, is basically have two axes overlapping at the same time, and I'm gonna guarantee you it's gonna create a lot of problem in the graph editor, because it's gonna I have conflicting animation, right? So again, this is really a message for the rigger. First of all, do the orientation properly, and then the animator, before you start the animation, check what you need to be done. Okay. Other things, simple controller for the FK for the hair here, very simple. Uh, for the facial, I think they really did a good job because they have very few main controller that let you have very nice deformation. I'm really happy on what they did here, right? And then you can go, you see these bigger controller are all for the major controller. You can see how they work really well. And then they have those small one for little details, okay? Really good when you do this kind of stuff, all right guys? And then you have main controller here to move. This one, I remember, this one if I remember correctly is for, oh no, there was another controller, this one overall here, to stretch the entire face, right? Really, really good and really fun, okay? They have some good controller here for the eyebrows. Again, the important things about that the facial is that even by moving few simple controller, right, like this one, I move this one, I can achieve a nice facial expression, right? I can see where a lot of riggers, they think like about, oh, if I give trillions controller to the animators and they can edit everything, that's a good rig. No, a good facial rig is when just by moving by a few controller I can achieve something good, and then I can use those small one to refine everything else, right? That's the most important things, right? Just giving me, I saw like some rigger that, of rigs that they don't have this kind of controller, or if they have, they don't work very well, they don't follow anatomy and everything. And basically, as soon as you move them a little bit, it breaks everything, and then you have to use always this controller one by one to make a good expression. And it's gonna be a tragedy for the animator because it's gonna take forever to do a good animation. So again, if there is any rigger out there that is watching this video, really, those are really the basic that every rig should have. And then of course you should always check for the animators, the animation lead, if they have any specific requirement. But again, you will be surprised like how even big production that you expect done by professional people, sometimes they deliver a rig that they don't have this kind of power and flexibility, and makes life of a hell for the animator. You might think it's gonna save you a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, a month in doing the rig. Shouldn't take that long, first of all. But then I can guarantee you it's gonna waste a lot of time to the animators, because if you have hundreds of animators that they use rig that are not really flexible and powerful, or they are too slow, then you're gonna end up having months of time wasted in production, not just a few hours or a few weeks. Okay guys, I want to share this with you, and I'm gonna leave the link in the description in case you want to know where to find this rig. And it's really good and really powerful. Kudos to the team who did it, and enjoy. See you next time guys.